Hey guys, Forsaken Reality here with the 49th episode of the multiplayer RPG tutorial series. In this one, we're making some changes to our combat system. So, in order for our magic system to look neat when we have it set up and actually be accessible to a decent level, we'll need to organize our combat system. And basically, what we're going to do, this is what it's going to look like after we move a majority of our combat set up to our combat component, and this is what it looks like right now, just so you know how much is actually in our character and how much we don't really need. With our magic system implemented, it would just make this into 10 times more of a mess than it needs to be, and it would just be too hard to follow along. And this is a perfect example of when you plan something out at the beginning and it doesn't end up being exactly the way it's intended. For example, my stance was the main issue here. I set my stance up in my character component, but a lot of my stance was being changed and manipulated by my combat component, and that stopped me from, and due to my stance being in my character component, that stopped me from calling specific things. For example, right here, which right in the middle of our combat, we have a check in our character component for our stance, which just makes things a little more difficult because we can't just, rather than having all this code in there, we could have this side, and then it would just be this one random bit here. That wouldn't work because you can't call a component from another component. Well, you can, but it takes an extra chunk of code just to get the reference sent over there, and it's just easier to set the stance up in the combat component since that's mainly where it's dealt with, other than the unequipped state. So now that that's been explained, without further ado, we'll get into that. And I noticed that in my main project I had things looking a lot cleaner like this. I don't remember if I went through and set up the color coding for here, but I'll quickly, basically at the end, you'll have this nice color coding set up, and it'll make it just easier to navigate and know exactly what's what. So without further ado, we will get into setting this up. First thing I'm going to do is just move my test project over out of the way, and now we're stuck here with this mess. But no need to worry, we'll clean this up and it won't take us no time at all. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is close out my character for now. Let's go to my combat component. I'm going to create a stance variable. And I'm just going to look for stance. Get my East enum stance right here. Let's put that up the top right there for now. And now that I have my stance set up here, I'm going to go around through here and set the stance up so that it's playing properly. So I'm just going to look for stance right here. And then you can actually just right click this one, find reference, and it'll get you a better, more accurate input for your stance. We're looking for the change the ones from our character component. So we'll want to get our combat component, stance set. Let's plug that in like this. Let me just remove that. And we can control C that and paste right there. And just hold control, drag these out, delete this one. Let's move this down a bit. Let me grab it because this one's in the way. Sometimes you have issues with these. And in here, I'm just going to comment all this as the inventory. For now, this is what we have, and we'll eventually set up an inventory system that actually functions more like an actual inventory in an RPG. But it's just right now to keep things more organized when we do. Just gonna set this up as a green color. Comment this. The camera, I'm just gonna get rid of these ones. Just so I just have the main comment as a bubble. And I'm gonna make this a brown color. These are just some test inputs I put in for adding and removing the health. I can just put those up here. Movement bubble. Make it a blue color. Actually, so let's put that up right there for now. And combat will make red. Alright, and we'll just go with a purple or a pink, whatever you want to call it. And it's just there, and from the blocking video in case you decided to set the block input. So there's a bit of color coding there. We can get back to setting up our stance. We have this stance set up in our character from our combat component now. And one other place where we were using the stance was in our animation blueprint. So we want to come into our animation blueprint. And in our notifies graph, right here we're getting our stance from our character component. We want our combat component, so set stance. And stance from our weapon to and in our combat component instead of our character. Just organize this a little. Guess it would look better if that was down there, maybe. There we go. And now, the same thing here, stance, set stance. Drag those in. Delete this one. Delete that. I believe there's one more area for stance in here. It's not in, yeah, it's right here. And I'm just going to click this and Control C to copy the stance there. Control V. Delete this. And then we have our stance from our combat component being set to unequipped. Okay, so now we want to go to our event graph, and I'm just going to do this normally go through them all rather than clicking through that. So we want to go to our update graph and our character variables. We just want to delete this right here. So we're not getting our stance from our component anymore. Bring these back. It's lining those up. Update and animation variables. Right here is where we get our combat component. So we can drag it up here. And get our stance. With the shield being set elsewhere, yeah, over here, so that's why that's not being set there anymore. Now we're setting our stance from our combat component. I believe the stance should be 100% working. Yep. We're not currently holding an item because we haven't made the changes for that within the stance. Just gonna pause here for a second and see exactly what that is. And yeah, I had a feeling there was a couple more stance checks. We made the stance function right here in our master character in our melee combat that we're using in our input light attacks and terror heavy attacks. I believe that we actually removed that. I'm actually going to remove that stance check. And yeah, I'm just going to select this, delete, delete, drag this over. To the false. And right here is where we're actually gonna move this into our combat component. We'll do the same thing here. And this is gonna be our pre-attack checks. So basically we're not falling, the player can attack, holdable is valid. That's gonna be our pre-attack checks. So to do that, we want to select all of this and Control C to copy it, right click and copy to do that. It's going to be a pre-attack check. Let me Control V that in here. First thing we're going to want to replace is our weapon reference, which you can already get right here. And our character movement, we got to get our character reference. Search for character movement and we'll just plug in his falling. So basically it'll be falling if you're in the air basically when that runs. And we're going to want some return nodes, so right click return. Or copy this, so basically anywhere that you normally would have checked elsewhere. And we're also going to want an output pin for success. So if we can pre-attack, there's only one instance that this is going to be a success, and that's if our attack is true. So we can copy and paste. So if we can attack and all this is run through the way it should, it's going to be true, and otherwise it's going to be false. Right here, it's not valid, it'll also run false. So there's our pre-attack checks function set. Oh, actually I forgot the can attack right here. You just replace that with the can attack in the component itself. And now we have the pre-attack checks. We can simply delete all of this, get our combat component, and search for our pre-attack checks, and also hold P to create a branch. And if it's a success, then we'll do our light attacks. And I'll do the same thing right here. Delete these three. Copy and paste this here. And if it's true, we'll do our heavy attacks. About those ones there, I'm just going to copy and paste that comment. Control C, Control V. I can just place it on there like that. So there's our light attack broken down a bit. And our heavy attacks right there. And we still want our light attack checks and our heavy attack checks moved over. So we can do this by selecting all of this, copying it. And we'll create a new function. Light attack check, paste this. And we'll want our light attack. Heavy attack, so we're checking if we're doing a light or a heavy attack. Because you can chain between the both, and then it will determine if it's a chain attack and continue on to do a light attack from there and disable it, or a heavy attack. But by this point, it's doing a light attack. You're using your left mouse button. And right here, we need our chain attack. Set that. Light attack. Heavy attack. Set these. Connect those like so. Take those. Copy all three of these and paste them down here. We'll actually get rid of the chain attack. And we'll hold control and drag this down here. And we'll delete all of this. That should properly get this from the combat component. Delete all this. And there we are now setting our light and heavy attack checks in our combat component. We'll come back out of here. You can just find the reference to this. Combat component. Light attack check. And now we just replace that event with a function. And we also moved with the function in our combat component where it should be. Now we're going to do the same thing with our heavy attacks. So I'm just going to copy this. Or actually, I'm just going to copy our light attack check. And I'm going to paste that in here. And simply just tick this. Tick this, double check. Yep, that's all you need to do. And there's our heavy attack. We can delete this. Head up here, we can compile, and you'll notice you'll get an error. So you want to call your combat component. And get your heavy attack check. And that will perform our light attack check and our heavy attack check. That will move into our light and heavy attacks. And that is also getting rid of all of that unorganized code in here. And from now we can call our stance properly from our combat component. Just going to double check to see how it's looking in game. So we can get our stance and combat's working. Just gonna test it out with another one. And stance is being set for both of them. I'm just gonna hop into my combat component and move my checks up for my attack right here like this. And there we go. That's going to be everything for this episode. If you found this video helpful, you want to see more, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you won't miss out on any new tutorial uploads. In the next one, we'll be continuing on with the magic system now that we have that all prepared. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to leave those in the comments section below, or join my community Discord server using the link in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the next episode.